Transitioning into the final four of the Stanley Cup playoffs, the World Championships are complete. We are making our way through a somewhat traditional-like spring. Summer, we're still a little bit behind the schedule in the hockey calendar, but still progress being made and some great goaltending performances coming up to talk about. We will also chat about the CCM Eflex 5.9 line in our gear segment, and we will chat with Dusty Imoo, who makes in-goal radio history today with his third appearance on the podcast. That feature interview is brought to you by Sense Arena VR, the podcast presented by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com, as we bring in David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley, and things are rocking and rolling over at The Hockey Shop, Woody.
Yeah, absolutely. All the new gear that's coming in, we've been going over all the new lines, whether it's the Neubauer Hyperlight 3X, the sticks, the chest protector, CCM with the Eflex 5 line, their new chest protector, stick coming in July. We went over the 5.9 line, and now this week, the 5.9 Source for Sports exclusive with features you can only get from them. But you know what? Coming up, Father's Day is only a couple weeks away. So as much as goalies were always like, oh, what do I need? What do I need? Let me get their latest and greatest. Sometimes you got to think about dad who's taking care of you for all these years. Keep your ears, eyes, whatever, on our social media. And next week's podcast, we'll have a Father's Day special coming. Probably launch it before we get to the next edition. Don't quite have it ready for this week's edition, but we've got a special offer coming from the Hockey Shop exclusive for Father's Day. So make sure you set aside, if you're looking for a gift for dad, you're struggling what to get him, we've got something coming from them. We'll have a special offer there that will kind of, doesn't matter what gear he needs, this will be able to help you out, and a really good discount coming from our friends at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com. So whether it's gear for yourself, gift ideas for dad, you can check them out at thehockeyshop.com, or like I said, in the next week, stay tuned and we'll give you a special offer so you can actually get dad a gift. You don't even have to tell him that you saved all this money.
That's outstanding. Build the anticipation too, and that 5.9 line from the CCM and the Eflex line is awesome because it's that Source for Sports exclusive setup. So it's like 5.9, but a step up.
Plus,
and plus. All kinds of different things in it. So you want to stick around for the gear segment with Cam. And we also have some stuff happening over on the website. Lots going on over at In Goal Mag, Hutch.
We got a lot going on, but hey, Father's Day, guys.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best gifts you could get your father, if he's a goaltender, would be a membership at In Goal Premium. So if you head over to In Goal, you'll find multiple links on there where you can give a gift membership, and then on Father's Day, he'll get a really nice note from you, and it's one of those gifts that just keeps giving because he can enjoy the content for the entire year. There's over 400 pieces up there right now that he'd immediately get access to, and then another full year. And this is, chances to sit down with NHL goaltenders and learn from them. I got another one though. Like if you're a goaltender, you could get the membership for your father and just say, hey, this is something we can enjoy together.
Oh.
So, I like giving gifts like that. So,
yeah.
So great opportunity. But yeah, lots going over on the website. First thing I just want to say is just thank you. All the people who are listening to this show, who are members over at In Goal. It's been an incredible journey. And I'm reminded of that, guys, every time we get an email from somebody. And it happens quite frequently. Got one yesterday from Sweden with a question for a 13-year-old goaltender. And we don't just say thanks. I actually went out and got some answers from Pete Fry and Maria Mountain about these questions that are sent our way. We always try and do our best to get back to you. Also want to give a shout out to Kyle Laturnus, who is in Landis, Saskatchewan, just down the road from where Braden Holtby grew up. He's a goaltender, and he had some questions about the Bauer pads after listening to one of the reviews. Got back to him with some answers. He since sent me a picture of his beautiful all black ultrasonics that he purchased as a result. But I was curious because, guys, quite often we get in these notes, I listen to it with my son or my daughter in the car on the way to the rink, or I'm listening every time I go for a run. And so I said, Kyle, where are you listening? He said, actually, when I'm out in the field doing my work, sitting in the tractor, not the combine yet, Darren, you made that clear to me that it's too early for that. And I said, I'd just love to see. So he sent me a little video sitting in the tractor as he's about to head out seeding the canola. And it was just awesome. I love hearing from all these folks. So wherever you are, whoever you're listening to, send us a note, podcast@ingoalmag.com. And there's a good chance we'll get back to you pretty quick. And who knows, maybe you get a shout out like Kyle.
What kind of tractor was it? Green or red?
Big. Yeah, it was a big one. Yeah.
Those tractors are awesome. You ever been in a tractor? Ever done any tractoring, like field
I would
work?
love to. No, I would love to. We had a billet who was also a farmer from Ontario and heard great stories about what the technology is like.
It's amazing.
I just love it. Yeah, I just love it. So I would love to. So maybe when we're on our road trip, one of the listeners out there will take us out in the field and show us what their life is like, because it's impressive work you're all doing.
It's funny, you got this big field, but you sit in the cabin of that thing, and it's still intimidating. You're like, because it's a massive piece of machinery, and they can navigate it. So big stick tap and hat tap to the farmers out there, and there's no better time than sitting in the tractor and listening to the podcast, In Goal Radio, the podcast, and getting all these kinds of tips and information, and listening to the feature interviews brought to you by Sense Arena. It's awesome, and the feedback, keep it coming. I love it when you forward the feedback to me when I get it, and just to know that there's people. It's always nice just to know people are listening.
Yeah, it sure is. And even, when we're back in the rinks, it's fun when people come up and just tell us that they're listeners and how much they enjoy it. It's great. And, the other thing, guys, is quite often it's, I just finished episode 67. I'm like, guys, we're on 122. Well, if you found out about the podcast a little after this journey started, you've got a back catalog of 122 episodes to listen to. That's I think that would take you a good 8 days of nonstop seeding on your field to get through all those episodes. So busy time of year. There's lots of stuff to listen to. Yeah,
well, seeding and harvest time, you can roll through them pretty fast. I'd like to see Woody in a combine or a tractor.
Boys, they barely let me operate a motor vehicle here.
Do you imagine the damage he would do, like just getting from one field to the next if he had to go on a road? Like there would be no road signs left on that piece of transportation.
Couldn't you just see him cursing? Why do they make these roads so narrow? Don't they think of us farmers when we have to get from field to field? This is ridiculous.
That would be him to a T. We also want to talk about the World Championships. The goalie-led Team Canada comes back with the gold. How about Roberto Luongo putting the club together along with Shane Doan, and then going with like a tandem from the Arizona Coyotes, which was cool, and bringing home the championship under the tutelage of Gerard Gallant.
Well, yeah. First off, shout out to Darcy Kemper, did a hell of a job winning the gold medal. Aiden Hill got into a game, but don't forget Michael DiPietro, who along with Aiden Hill were both on the podcast. So I guess they got a little bit of the in-goal bump heading over there. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we can get Darcy to sort of complete the trio. So shout out to them. Nice job on the gold medal win, but also, like you said, Roberto Luongo, sort of first role as general manager of Hockey Canada's entry into that tournament. And obviously a weird year for everyone, not just Canada, in terms of the players, maybe the pool not being the same as it normally would. And some early struggles for Canada, 0-3, and hearing a lot of criticism, but nice bounce back to sort of, they backed their way into the medal round, right? Like if I think there was a game that went into the third period, it might have been Germany-Latvia, with Germany up 2-1.
It was.
If Latvia had tied that game in the third period, Canada doesn't even play the medal round. But they get in, they get some momentum going. They beat Russia. They beat Finland in the gold medal. Kudos to them. And I can tell you, as far as Roberto Luongo being the general manager, like, I don't think any of us who know him are surprised, or he's going to have success in management now that he's transitioning over to that, like sort of learning the ropes like a Steve Yzerman did in different roles within the Florida Panthers organization, getting to be a GM of this team with Canada. And I can tell you firsthand knowledge of how good he's going to be, not just because of how much he thinks the game, but how much work he does, how passionate he is about it. but just the amount of times he's absolutely kicked my ass and a lot of people's asses at fantasy football. If anybody can put together a roster, it's this guy.
There was a lot of emphasis on Andrew Mangiapane's arrival for Team Canada and turning the tournament around. I think that coincided with Luongo's arrival in Latvia too, wasn't it?
Well, he went over after the first round. So after the Panthers were out of the first round, so it would have been around a similar time. So yeah, I mean, we're just going to give Lou all the credit. And I'm joking. Yeah. I'm joking about the fantasy. People think I'm joking about the fantasy football. Like, there was 1 year in the final year of his career where, and if you've ever if you've never played, you're like, what the hell is he talking about? If you've ever played, you know how much work goes into it. And at one point towards the end of his career, he was in 12 or 13 different leagues.
Really?
I can barely keep track of 2. He was in 12 or 13 and he won like 8 or 9 of them. Like, that's unheard of. And there's a lot of moving parts and looking ahead to sort of future weeks. And it's not
waiver wires. Yeah,
it's not the same as being a general manager of a hockey team. I'm not trying to equate the two directly, but there's a certain mindset and critical thinking that goes into and forecasting and analytics. And if anybody's going to figure out how to apply all those things the right way in hockey, it's going to be Roberto Luongo.
Especially if you're in a keeper league too. Maybe that was Lou who was phoning you, wanting to work on a trade. Maybe you've got a tight end or some kind of position that he needs help with his fantasy football league team.
I've never had a tight end, Darren, but I got to tell you, he wouldn't be looking for me for help. And the one thing I said to him last year is I was set to complete my first blockbuster trade. I didn't want to make it with him because I knew I wouldn't win the trade. I just flat out refused to trade with him because I know no matter what I would lose it. So I found a lesser light who was just as dumb as me and traded with him.
Woody, I think you would be the exact person that he would look to trade with. I'm thinking,
the other way around for sure, because he knows he could fleece the idiot 100%.
Well, I wouldn't call you an idiot. I would just call you a target.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yeah, I think idiot's way too strong. We have Carey Price against Andrei Vasilevsky, and not head-to-head, but 2 Vezina Trophy winners advancing to the third round as we record this, as goaltending continues to get it down. Vasilevsky was impressive again, but Carey Price and what he did in that sweep, Hutch, just watching it and witnessing what Carey Price has done so far. 7 straight wins as he advances to the third round. Wow, it is vintage Carey Price. This matches the deepest he's ever gone in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, it's been an incredible run, and I think back to the bubble as well and how fantastic he was there last season in the playoffs. And here's a guy who's just stepping up his game when it absolutely counts the most. It makes me think of some of the money goalies of days gone by. Billy Smith was one that comes to mind as a guy who can elevate at the most important time. And we're definitely seeing that in Carey. And I think we've talked here before about how it's just fun to see the evolution in his game, what's changing as he's on the ice, that ability to blend the technical now with a little bit more gamesmanship, aggression. It's just a real pleasure to watch. And Vasilevsky, of course, is another one. Kind of a recurring theme here, right? There's another guy incredibly athletic, but has got that incredible base to his game as well. Marc-Andre Fleury, if he moves through, has that as well. And, Philip Grubauer, another outstanding goaltender. Just some incredible goaltending. It's just the cream is rising to the top, and we're really showing why the goaltenders are the most important players on the team, aren't they, guys?
It's an opportunity, and Montreal will be the underdog in the third round. But
for sure,
wow, Carey, this might be one of the most important series in Carey Price's career, just for the opportunity that you win one more, you get to a Stanley Cup final, and then you start joining the other Montreal greats in another, because that's about the only thing that's missing in his resume right now.
Yeah, the only other time he got to the conference final was obviously the Chris Kreider when he got taken out, and didn't last very long against the New York Rangers, and obviously they went on to the Cup final. Listen, I think that it was important that Montreal finished that series against Winnipeg when they did. I think rest is going to be important. We've talked about that with Stefan Waite. We've had articles on it. I mean, the history, the track record shows itself. Even last year in the bubble, after all that time off from round 1 to round 2, the play sort of started to level off for him. So back-to-back nights, couple of long-range goals that you don't normally expect to go in, but they survive it, they get through, and now they get a big break. So he gets a chance to sort of have that rest that has always been so crucial, at least over the past 4 or 5 years, to success for him. And really, to me, you're going to probably, whether it's Vegas or Colorado, need Carey at that round 1 level. But the reality of round 2 is he didn't need to be. Like, Winnipeg, after game 1, the final 3 games, they went as quietly into the night as I have seen. And part of that is how well Montreal defends and has all season. Like, that's kind of been overlooked in this. Montreal is this sort of, they are underdogs for sure, but I think people miss how good defensively at 5-on-5 they've been all year, and how important that traditionally, that ability, that stat, that metric, measures playoff success. So you could argue that indicates they are built to be a playoff team. And in round 2 against Winnipeg, like literally the last 3 games, Winnipeg had 2, 3, and 2 high danger chances, like 2 a game. That's it.
Wow.
And so I'm fascinated to see not just if Carey can get back to the Toronto level, if that's what's required, because you're more into 6, 7 high danger chances a night. But I'm interested to see whether this high flying Colorado Vegas series, it looks like a different sport, and a lot of people have commented on it. How much of that is just the superior quality of those 2 teams, and how much of the style of Montreal how much of that is that one's better, and how much of that is going to be the style does Montreal slow that down to a pace that, let's be honest, aesthetically wasn't all that pleasing in the North Division Finals. But to me, this is a battle of styles as much as goaltending, and I'm curious to see which one wins out.
Well, it's going to be fascinating just because of the crossover. None of these teams have faced each other at all this year. And that will be, as much as we can break down forward strengths and goaltending strengths and blue line abilities, we don't know. Like, we just don't know. And it'll be really intriguing. The next 2 rounds with teams facing each other for the first time will be very unique. Just a comment on Andrei Vasilevsky and what he's been able to do, because I thought it was a bit of a challenge in front of him against the Carolina Hurricanes, and he passed it with pretty significant success.
Yeah, he was to be honest with you, he was better in the first round than he was in the second. Obviously, he had that game where he gave up 4, and Tampa just outscored that. That was not one of his best performances. And again, I saw Rod Brindamore at the end of that series talk about all the great looks they were getting. And then I looked up the metrics and looked up at ClearSight and how they saw the series. And, all those great looks in that elimination game, the team that was getting them was Tampa Bay. They had 11 high danger, and Carolina, a team desperate to stay in a series down 2-0 in the third period, down 1-0 much of the game, had 5. So, I'm not sure they're creating the type of offense that actually leads to goals when they talk about good looks. And so that could be a really interesting juxtaposition. We've seen this over the years where teams feel like they're getting chances, but when you actually look at and measure those chances, they aren't. We've seen this a little bit in Vegas, Darren. A lot of talk about them not being able to score in the playoffs. When you look at the types of chances they're actually getting, you shouldn't be as shocked as people typically are, because they're not the types that lead to goals, especially this time of the year. And it's to be honest, it's hard to get those types of chances. Nobody's making it easy, but I was surprised at how few Carolina was able to generate against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was not a good defensive team in the regular season, not at all. They leaned heavy on Vasilevsky, who is a worthy Vezina finalist, not winner. But in the playoffs, it's like they've rediscovered it. Like they've had moments where they opened things up. Against Florida, they did, and he had to be great. But against Carolina, they look like they're sort of rediscovering their defensive roots.
Do you like what you're hearing on In Goal Radio, the podcast, the breakdown of the Stanley Cup playoffs, the World Championships? Hutch, it'd be great to get some more feedback. The like button, subscribe, smash a rating over to us. Is that what the kids say? You're better at all this stuff than I am.
No, I don't know. I should probably get one of my kids to come on and explain how it all works. Whatever your favorite podcast provider is, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, where most of you do, or through Google or wherever, we would love it. Really, we would really, really appreciate it if you just take 2 minutes, head over there and give us a little rating, whatever that might be. Leave a little comment. It makes a big difference to us. It enables the show to get shared with so many more people out there, just by the magic of these algorithms and how they work. And so you're going to spread the word to the rest of the goaltending community, and we just love when we all come together and share this great sport that we all have a passion for. And you can do your part and thank us for the work that's happening here just by getting on there and giving us a like.
And just write yourself a note. Like if you're listening right now and you don't want to go through and scroll through your phone or your tablet or your computer, just write yourself a note. I got to go back and leave a rating, because that way you won't forget.
That'd be awesome. And
unless you're driving,
don't forget as well. I know we're going to get to the gear segment pretty quick, but all the gear segments that you hear on the podcast here are also published over on YouTube, youtube.com/ingoalmedia. And you can get every episode there. We usually leave just a tiny little bit more in that. You get the up close views of all the gear that is being discussed. And then I like to have a little fun with either Woody or Cam most weeks as well. So you get just a little bit of bonus content over there. But a great way to enjoy it is over on YouTube. And we would love it if you'd subscribe, like, and all that sort of stuff on YouTube as well, because it's a big help to all of us and we appreciate it.
I was going to say, speaking of, like, we're talking about Carey Price, we're talking about playoffs, we're talking about subscribing. InGoalMag.com Premium this week has great tips on the ice, video, Carey Price, mic'd up, running kids through drills,
Very cool.
Stick positioning tips on your post. And it is really cool to see Carey working with kids and sharing these insights, how he holds his elbow on his blocker side post when he's on his skates, and why. Because of the freedom of movement, it gives his stick and his blocker hand. How he does it differently on the glove side and why. And to see him explain it to the kids, knowing that when we watch him play in the Stanley Cup playoffs, now the semifinals, he's going to be doing the exact same things. And so whether you're 6 years old or heading to the Stanley Cup semifinals, these tips apply. And so you can watch that at ingoalmag.com. It's one of the things we bring to our premium members. It's live now. And now I'm thinking Father's Day. Do you remember, Hutch? We had a beer leaguer, and I say that with all the affection in the world, come to the day with Carey Price, Carey Gillings. And as I was going through some of the video and tips, there is a great butterfly rotation tip from Carey Price that he gave to Carey. And so Carey Gillings, our beer league attendant. Yeah. I think we're going to have to roll that out this week at InGoal Mag for ahead of Father's Day. We've always got the tips for the kids. It's time to do one for the dads. And so in honor of upcoming Father's Day, look for that next week on InGoal Mag and InGoal Premium, because we'll spread the generational wealth of teaching from Carey Price.
And one more before we get into the gear segment, talking about lessons and what you can take from the pros. This one isn't exactly a breakdown of technique, but in Game 5 of the Colorado-Vegas series, with 2 seconds to go, under 2 seconds to go, Brandon Saad, at the end of the first period, throws one home short side on Marc-Andre Fleury. And it's a puck that Marc-Andre Fleury should have had. You see his reaction. He throws a stick, rolls his shoulders. Like, he can't. It was the ultimate, like, human reaction that we would all give. And which I thought was amazing, because he didn't just go into robotic reset. He actually reacted. He couldn't believe that thing went in as he reached across his body. But I just thought it was an incredible lesson of being able to rinse it and stay with it. And he admitted after the game, a gentleman, that early in his career, that would have affected him the rest of the game. But he was able to reset and get back in the game, and ended up winning a crucial game in overtime in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I think there's a pretty cool lesson that even those at the highest level let in a goofy goal every now and then, but you can still rescue it and respond to it.
There are bounces, and you have to be ready for that. And the other thing I really enjoyed about that was it seemed that he sort of gestured to the team, okay, that's on me. I got this now.
Yeah.
And so both the accountability, but I'm about to take action here too. I own it, and I'm going to fix it. And I think by having that plan, in a sense, and obviously he doesn't create a plan for how he responds to those things, but experience had him ready to respond in a way that was very active and created more confidence in his mind, in a sense. I mean, he's got a whole lifetime of experience to rely on there that not all of us do, but his reaction, I think, built more confidence in himself and his team, and of course he delivered.
And I think as he admitted to after the game, like part of that is just experience, right? You go through different things, and so you realize that there's no point in overreacting to it. There's only one way to sort of react properly to it and move on. And part of that is experience. But I think part of that, for him at least when the comparisons get made to early Marc-Andre Fleury, and it's not even early, it's more sort of mid-2000s when things were really off the rails in Pittsburgh, and there was a lot of talk about, what were they going to do? Were they going to move on this guy? Were they have to give up on him because the playoff meltdowns were so spectacular? He didn't have a foundation back then. Right? Like he just didn't. He didn't have positional staples in his game. He didn't know how to go in and out of his posts. And so anytime something went wrong back then, and this is a conversation I've had with him, anytime something went wrong back then, what do we do as goaltenders when we're not feeling good about our game? One of two things. We either retreat to the goal line. That's what a lot of people do. You sink, or you get hyper aggressive. And he would get hyper aggressive. And his philosophy, quite honestly and openly, he explained, was, if I'm not feeling good, the closer I can get to the puck, the more likely it's going to hit me. And so he would get super aggressive and end up out of position and make initial saves, but not recover to his post, be caught outside of his post, leave himself in positions where the New York Islanders could bank multiple shots from below the goal line off his posterior or legs into the net and create all these questions that I remember being on the radio in Pittsburgh, and they're like, they attribute all those to mental things about not being able to recover. I'm like, okay, that's fine. If you've given him the lessons and you've given him all the tools technically, and he's not adjusting, and this is what's happening, then yeah, it's mental. But from the outside, it didn't look like he had those tools. And I sure wouldn't want to give up on the guy until I'm sure that I've given him the opportunity to sort of build that foundation. They hired Mike Bales that summer, and the foundation started. And I think that's a big part of the turnaround in his career. And it's gone through other voices, and he's altered where he plays. He's made adjustments in Vegas back and forth with different voices. But once he's there, he has that staple. And so when something goes wrong, you don't need to change anything. You just go back to your foundation. And I just think early in his career, they had an old school, like sort of more been there, done that voice in Pittsburgh, as opposed to a really established technical goalie coach early in his career. And I just think that was missing. And again, like, it's not that I think, we've had that conversation. That is what was missing. And so whether sometimes we confuse mental lapses or, experience, like, oh, he's not prepared to handle the moment, with just not having the tools to do it. And sometimes those tools are technical and tactical as well as between the ears.
Hutch, I don't know about you, but when Woody asked the question, what happens if things don't go right? What do we do? And he mentioned retreat to the goal line or become hyper aggressive. Those weren't my answers. Mine were, and I wrote them down, sulk and then pray. Are the two things that I usually do when things go south. So I mean, even getting hyper aggressive would be a step in the right direction for me.
It would be, or if you're like me, you're just so used to them going wrong that it doesn't fluster you.
That's
because
normal.
It's just, it's normal. I love Woody's points about the technical. I think the blending of the mental with the technical is so important. You need those two things. And as you were talking about all those situations with Marc-Andre, I could only think of today's interview with Dusty Imoo and the importance of that relationship between goalie coach and coach, and what would different coaches, what would different parents say to their kids after seeing that goal the other night on Fleury, and how might they have been different had the game gone differently as well. And so that relationship is so important. Won't get into it too much just yet, but it certainly was a real foreshadow to today's fantastic interview for me.
We're going to sit down with the goalie therapist, his third appearance on In Goal Radio, the podcast, Dusty Imoo, with our feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena VR in just a little bit. But the Hockey Shop, source for sports story, thehockeyshop.com, presents In Goal Radio, the podcast, and our a weekly gear segment. This week, it's the CCM Eflex 5.9 Source for Sports exclusive as we visit with Cam over at the Hockey Shop.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports, where we've been rolling out a lot of new gear, Cam. And some of our audience, the ones that have been paying close attention, are going to be like, what the heck? CCM Eflex 5 5.9? I've seen this before. But what you haven't seen is the Source for Sports exclusive line. Cam teased it when we were at the rink testing out the 5.9 a couple months ago. And now we've got it in store. So it's time to go back over it. This is basically the second price point, and we've got the third price point, the 5.5.
Correct.
But a Source for Sports exclusive version with some special features that you won't find anywhere else. Let's just start with the 5.9 and let's start walking through those features.
All right. Let's start with the pad first.
Wrong pad, Kev.
Yeah, I know. You got a 5.5 there.
Not that bright.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for, to help you along. So, Source exclusive 5.9 SDC is called out on the website. What does that all mean? So, you're getting an upgrade in a couple features on the pad itself. One of my favorites, makes big difference, is actually the knee stack itself. So, this area and this area doesn't change. Center knee block, that's what changes. So with a harder HD foam knee block, it's a lot closer to actually what you would find on the Eflex 5 Pro pad itself. Not the exact same, couldn't go that far, but it's a lot stiffer, which is going to provide you more stability down in that butterfly and help support you, especially as your butterfly sliding, moving side to side, and sitting tall in your butterfly as well. Great upgrade, great feature. Really, really like it on the pads. I think it helps to give it a nice upgrade.
Probably a little more durability there too, in terms of it's not going to soften up and sort of shrink on you over time.
You're not going to have that foam compression that will happen over time as quickly.
I also noticed that you have the foam molded inner edge now, and is that on the 5.9 stock as well?
Correct, yes. It is still something you see there. So that stack itself doesn't change. Again, it's just that center knee block. So moving on. Another feature on the pad. It's definitely a nice call out and an added durability feature. So these strips of what is the speed skin added at the bottom of your calf wrap itself. What that does, especially in an area where you see a lot of abrasion wear caused by the skate, even sometimes the Velcro, if it's a bit too overlapped, will catch in that area. Just a nice added durability feature to stop that from being chewed apart. Something you're only going to find on our CCM SDC exclusive pads. Great upgrade. Two more things covered with the pad. One, all black isn't necessarily 100% exclusive. It's just one of our colors that we did go with. We have a few others, Boston, Toronto, Chicago, to name a few. White and black, especially in all white as well. Exclusive sizing in the 5.9. We went with a 1.5-inch thigh rise. It kind of covers the best of both worlds. Somebody who's still looking for a +1 should still feel comfortable with that extra 1/2 inch of size, depending on exactly where they're lining up. Somebody that was used to a +2 might be able to drop that little half size and still get covered in terms of for their overall sizing curve. So nice little upgrade when it comes to the pads. Those same features that I just talked about, with the exception of the 1.5 thigh rise, do drop down to the 5.5. The one note is that our intermediate pads for the 5.9 still follow the regular sizing curve.
So once you're into senior sizing pads, you get the extra 1/2 inch at the top. Instead of stock +1, it's +1.5. Source for Sports exclusive, along with the improved knee stack and the extra abrasion wear. Now that's the pad. I want to talk about the 5.9 glove. Because we've done this before. Your Source for Sports exclusive includes something that, frankly, I think is a call out for the pro level product. And I'm a little surprised you're able to get it in the 5.9, and that's in the palm, the D3O extra protection.
Have my shirt. You just explained all the best parts about it. I mean, a couple more quick highlights to it, but that said, the palm itself is definitely a huge upgrade. Well worth calling out, something we've done in the past with CCM, especially for those mid, and also that 5.5 glove does feature that same palm as well, brought all the way down into that price point series.
You got D3O in the 5.5.
That's correct. So definitely a great call out. Doesn't come in the junior, does come in the intermediate for the 5.9 in terms of for that D30. That said, a couple other features that we decided to go with. You'll see 600 brake, but single T. The reason why we did that, consistency of closure out of the box. We find, again, the gloves just tend to be a little bit more consistent in terms of that easier break-in period with them. And to us, you're still getting that nice wide presentation, especially when it opens up. So
we should say we just literally took this out of the bag and out of the box. So there's an example of what you're going to get in terms of closure in a 5.9 pad out of the box.
Exactly. Last quick call out, skate lace as well. Again, just for that nice clean look, as well as a bit more of that puck retention and absorption as you get that shot.
This is the bargaining power of Cam and the Source for Sports group, just going out and finding all the little extra accessories that other people aren't getting and making sure they get it in your second price point pad. Blocker, anything different there on the 5.9 compared to the stock one on the Source exclusive?
So you have both of my blockers right there. So 5.9, 5.5. Senior, both are featuring the D30 finger that you do find in the Eflex 5 Pro blocker. So again, as pucks are kind of riding up that stick, just gives you that little bit of extra level of protection. Nice feature. Not on the junior, is available on the 5.9 intermediate. So you will find it there. Again, same exclusive color zones. Good overall feel. Blocker's not just a blocker. In this case, it is still a blocker though. If that makes sense.
Nothing you say makes sense to me, Cam, but the gear looks pretty sick, so I'm just going to roll with it. What are we looking at price point here? We talk about this being a second price point. Obviously, there are elements in terms of, you don't get the injection molded core. You're not going to be able to choose max rebound or control rebound foams in this one versus a Pro. So there are things you get more if you order the Pro model.
Correct.
But you're not sacrificing much here. How much are you saving?
So it pretty much equates to half, like said and done. So your pads are about half of that of what you would find in the Pro series. Gloves pretty close to half. Same thing with the blocker itself. So basically, what we recommend this series for beer leaguers, kids that are transitioning. Even that high level midget kid that's still not quite done growing. So like still making that pro jump to a pro pad doesn't quite make sense. This gear is for you. Your bantam kids, guys, again, going through all the way through tiering through their gear. If pro gear doesn't quite make sense, this is definitely the next best option for sure.
Okay, and a whole bunch of options on the Source for Sports exclusive here at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com that you can't get anywhere else. About half price of a pro level pad. Now, we've got something that's actually even cheaper than that, because as excited as Cam is to sell you the new 5.9, he's got the previous generation still in stock. Time to get rid of some 4.9. This is the Flex 4.
But wait, there's more.
Oh, wow.
Last year's 5.9 SDC series on sale here at the Hockey Shop. Get them while they're still here. I'm starting to run low, but that doesn't mean I still can't get you fitted up. Great savings in terms of for price point. I still got the gloves, and yes, the gloves still come with the D30 palm. I've still got the blockers, and yes, the blockers do have that D30 finger. That's in the 4.9 series SDC. We still got them. We still have some inline product too as well. It doesn't feature the upgrades. Those are on sale as well. You can check them out at thehockeyshop.com here at the Source for Sports Hockey Shop. I kind of tried to say his line. It didn't quite work, but give me a call, 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790.
I happen to notice this 4.9 is 33 plus 2. So were you plus 2s last year on this versus the plus 1.5?
There were some different sizings between the two. We have changed that up to kind of condense things a little bit. A few less SKUs, a little less on my job to order all this different product. Makes it a little bit simpler for the audience too as well.
I don't know if we're going to zoom in on this, but when I talked about sale, when you talked about the second price point being roughly half as the senior price point, yeah, knock another 30% off. This pad right now is $700 Canadian. Retails normally at $1,000. And like I said, a lot of the features you'll find in the Pro pad, in this case, for pretty much 1/3 of the price. If you've got questions, ask Cam. Find him on thehockeyshop.com, or as he said, call him in person. Look them up on the website. Drop by if you happen to live in the Lower Mainland. Your opportunity now to get the last of the 4.9 at a serious savings. Or if you want to upgrade to the 5.9 and the new Eflex 5 and get your Source for Sports exclusives, he's got lots of those in stock right now. But like he said, they won't last long, so get in here soon.
There's a dinner speaking circuit once we get out of COVID and get back to normal of the Cam and Woody featured speaker at your local fundraising dinner. You guys have great chemistry. I mentioned it before, and I think it bears repeating. Good job over there.
We'd have to have Hutch. We can't live edit those dinners, so we'd have to have them with probably a mute button because there might be a few more cursed words mixed in there before
That's
Hutch
okay.
does the final edit. Usually me cursing at Cam.
We don't have to speak to the Lions Club every week. We can go a little hardcore.
Okay, all right.
It would have to be because of all those times I've had to blur out Cam's butt as he leans back behind the couch to pick something up.
I keep telling him to put on pants, but he doesn't listen.
I love the fact that Source for Sports, the hockey shop, thehockeyshop.com has this buying power and influence with the manufacturers that they can create different lines within the same line. Like the Eflex 5.9 gets a bump up because of the status of Cam and company over there.
Well, and not just the 5.9, but as you saw, this one actually kind of caught me off guard. I didn't know this was coming, but D3O in the 5.5. So the third price point down, D3O in the palm of the glove and on the finger of the blocker of their lowest price point, the 5.5 model. And then, as you said, not just the extra foam in the knee block on the 5.9 knee and the D3O, the single T pocket, I will say, I know it's Cam's philosophy and that's why he orders it this way. Out of the box, the single T600 that they order as a Source exclusive does close a lot nicer, in my opinion, at least at the start, requires less breaking in than the stock double T that CCM offers that you'll find everywhere else. So that's not so much we have the buying power of the pull. That's us sort of knowing and feeling like we understand the gear and this will function better for you preference that you can only get at the hockeyshop.com Source for Sports through their exclusive offers. And the other one too is the abrasion. Like they detected a little bit of extra wear at the bottom of the pad, and decided that they could flex a little buying power and have those abrasion areas sort of beefed up and increase the durability of the product for you, even though it's a lower price point. And the last thing I should say, just to reiterate, from the 4.9 Eflex, last year's model. All these second price points are about half price. That 4.9 right now is down to half price plus another 30% off. So make sure they've got a fair bit of inventory, but it won't last for long. Make sure you check them out at thehockeyshop.com to hop on that, because that Source for Sports exclusive as well has a lot of the same features. And skate lace in the pocket, another personal preference.
I love my skate lace pocket. I remember the first time I did it, I ordered a Miller blocker and trapper back in the late 80s, and I took out the webbing and put my skate lace in, and my father almost shot me. What are you doing? I'm like, this looks amazing. And he's like, what are you doing? You got a brand new glove and you're wrecking it. But I just love the skate lace.
I'd be impressed my kid could fix his own gear. That's awesome, Darren.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was pretty, but it didn't do much for my relationship with my father at the time. But it was still very, very, very cool.
But next time anything goes wrong with your gear, your dad can just grumpily look at you and say, "Grab some skate lace and fix it, buddy."
Fix it. I fiddle with my gear all the time, even today. Fiddle. I love doing that. And to the point, let me bring this up. Last week we had the Hyperlight stick, and talking about the handle being shorter. So I had two old foam core sticks in the garage. I played a couple of times this week, and I thought, I got to try this. Like, I cut them down, and just to see what it was like, and the leverage with playing the puck and the ability to play pucks in your feet, and then just feeling your post, because you're standing there and you tap your post for location, and it was neat. I liked it. Do you miss
on blocker side now, Darren? You go and try and tap the post, and
I did a couple of times. And I kind of gotta make sure, like, just adjust a little bit. Goofy, I know. I'm different. But I just thought, why not give it a shot? And 100%. without buying the stick and not knowing whether you're going to like it or not, I just cut down an old one. I've got the luxury of that because I've got a couple of old twigs there, and I liked it. So interesting. I don't know what your take is on the shorter handle, but it was it was interesting. You mentioned about Carey Price being able to play pucks closer to his feet. And I understand what you mean by that. But until I tried it, I didn't fully appreciate it. It's great.
How'd you find it for shooting pucks? Because again, you do, like we talked about, it doesn't have the same flex maybe as leaving it longer, but being able to sort of have those hands closer together and have that blocker hand on top, like it can give you a lot more leverage.
See, and it did. And I wasn't sure what I was doing. I actually thought I was doing something wrong because you guys mentioned you won't be able to loft it as well. I found I had more zip on it, and maybe I'm not throwing the puck down the ice or anything, but I had more accuracy and more zip with the shorter ones. The closer in passes off to a hash mark or up the wall. I liked it. I'm gonna go that route now.
I'm going to take your word for it. Not that I've been on the ice in over a year, but my team doesn't let me throw passes to the hash mark. I'm pretty restricted in what I'm allowed to do. Evidently, it doesn't go well when I try.
Is it true that they put a bungee cord on the back of your pants that won't allow you to get around the side of the post to the back of the net?
No.
It's just so we can't chase the referee down and complain all the time.
Cujo, Mick Magoo?
No. They just hit me in the head enough in warm-up so that I'm dizzy enough they know I won't leave the net.
You know what? It sounds like you and your team maybe need a little therapy session just to bring you guys back into a good spot before things start up again. And I just happen to know a guy. I know somebody that's available. He's the goalie therapist, and this is kind of cool. Talking about Dusty Imoo. Olympian, professional goaltender, goalie coach, father of a goalie, like everything that under the umbrella of goaltending he has done. And it's his third time on In Goal Radio, the podcast. And I love like the journey, Woody, that Dusty has taken from the first time he was on In Goal Radio, the podcast, to now. Like we're seeing an evolution in Dusty.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way. And in terms of, this new offering, like we're literally on the cusp of an evolution here, potentially with the new website and with, the goalie therapist, the goalietherapist.com, like that offering itself is evolving as we go. Like he's started it, he's just opening it. And it was interesting because, we had a conversation before this conversation about, where he was at and what the thought process was. And interestingly enough, from the people that have reached out early, it hasn't been so much about on the ice. It really has been. And as he mentions in the interview, like people looking at, like life counseling type stuff, like career type stuff. And we talk so often about how, people that are goaltenders for fun or goaltenders earlier in their career go on to other things. Roberto Luongo and general managing, like there are so many lessons from the life of a goaltender that apply to other things. And having someone that can help you channel those lessons in the proper way, whether it's to stop pucks or be a CEO, we're starting. Dusty was surprised himself that he's starting to see some crossover immediately in those requests. And so the goalie therapist itself could evolve in a lot of different ways. So I'm fascinated to be in sort of early and see where he takes us.
And it all sounds like it came from the relationship with Jack Campbell and almost by accident, but on purpose. Like his strategy and his approach, and discovered that there's something there.
Yeah, I think the work is so important. At every level of the game, you have goaltenders, and not just the NHL, but all the way down. You've got goaltenders that look around at their peers, and they have to be thinking, "What makes me different from that guy or that girl? I've got the same skill.
Yeah.
Why are they being a little more successful? Why are they being noticed and I'm not?" It's such a mental game. And the difference between goaltenders at any level is so minute that you've really got to be able to help people through those tough times and to understand who they are as a goaltender and how they're progressing. And it's not just your blocker needs to be here, you need to hold your glove a little bit different. There's some really challenging things to work through, and I'm super excited by what Dusty's doing. And another guy we had on here before, Kevin, Joe Clark, who's doing some similar work down the States, and I was actually texting with him this morning. The work between goaltender and coach is so important, and it's foundational It's based on that relationship, and I love to hear Dusty talking about that. But Darren, I think I sort of heard that evolution you were talking about just in his chatting with Woody there. He started off as I'm on a podcast and I have to be a proper guest his first couple of weeks, and that sort of sounded like two local White Rock boys just chilling on the beach chatting.
Totally.
Yeah, and so you could see what an easy guy Dusty is to work with and chat with, and would love that opportunity. But wouldn't it really be the ultimate test? I mean, it's one thing, Dusty, to say that you helped Jack Campbell over some humps in his career to reach where he is now, but could you get Woody to settle down on the ice? Could you get Woody to step up a level in beer league? Could you get his team, maybe allow him to leave the net once in a while? Unleash that bungee cord. Dusty, it's all about, can you pull that off or not?
I told you guys, there are some things that can't be fixed. They're best left alone. This is a cluttered, crazy mind. Nobody wants to look into it.
Yeah, that's going to take more than a couch to fix Woody. You might have to crawl into bed for a while and lie down and stay there. But I'd like to see the challenge taken up by Dusty Imoo, the goalie therapist. And there's so much more to it than just that. But it's a great endeavor by Dusty Imoo. Our feature interview this week brought to you by Sense Arena, Hutch, and some great things happening with Sense Arena.
Hey, Darren, I'm really excited about what we've heard from Sense Arena. They've been an awesome sponsor of the podcast for a long time now, bringing us the feature interviews. We know that Sense Arena is a game changer tool for goaltenders off the ice, but June 15th, next week, before the next show starts, they are releasing the new Sense Arena for players. And you might be thinking to yourself, why would I care that Sense Arena is releasing a player's version? This is a goaltending podcast, but Woody, what was like one of the number one reasons that NHL goaltenders became goalies in the first place?
It was either gear
Or
your sibling.
their siblings. So many goaltenders became goalies because they've got a parent or a sibling who is a forward or a defenseman. And now there's a Sense Arena version for those players. Now, here's the cool part, because whatever, who cares about the forwards and the defensemen? Every Sense Arena installation comes with 2 profiles you can use. And now you can use one of those for the player version. That means if you have the goalie version, you will have access to the player version if you're only using one of those goalie licenses. So you've already purchased it because you want to look after your own development. You basically have a freebie for your brother, your sister, your father, your mother who wants to train as a player. No extra cost. You got to buy the little attachment to attach the Oculus controller to your player stick. But this is an incredible thing that is opening up a whole new world of training for players. And a lot of you already will have access to it on June 15th when it comes open. You have to head over to sensearena.com. Let them know you're interested. You can reserve one of the first sleeves, one of the first attachments for your stick that will be sent out so that you can grab a hold of it really quickly. We're going to have one coming our way so I can let you know what the experience is like. But I think it's a really, really cool opportunity. They're not just opening up to the world of players and a whole new market for themselves, but they're giving it away effectively to everybody who's got a goalie license already, if you're only using one of your 2 licenses. And then, of course, I'm just crazy enough that I'm going to attach that to a goalie stick, of course, with goalie gloves, and I'm going to get out there and virtually be a forward or a defenseman just to see what that's like too, because why not?
Why not? Give it a shot.
I'm sure Bob's probably squirming as he listens to this because that was not their intention. I hope it works.
Well, we'll relax everybody with a great conversation. The feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena with so many things happening is with Dusty Imoo, 3rd time around. And this is the coolest conversation yet as he continues to travel down this wonderful path of goaltending. The feature interview with Dusty Imoo and Kevin Woodley on In Goal Radio, the podcast.
Welcome back to the In Goal Radio podcast, Dusty Imoo. I think it might be you and Weeksy might be our only 3-time guests.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So you guys I know you guys are friends as well. So you guys have set the record, setting the pace here on the Ingo Radio podcast. We wanted to get you on. I mean, our audience, I feel like they know you already. We've had you on a couple times. We've talked about your history playing, the Olympics, coaching over in Russia and China during a pandemic. We've covered all these things. We've covered your work with the Kings and the mentorship, but I was kind of interested, and I thought the timing might be right to sort of go back and talk about coaching and goalie coaching, but almost more, I don't know if mindset's the right word, but almost people coaching, because you got a new website, you've got a new sort of business that you're operating, and it's called the Goalie Therapist. And obviously, Jack Campbell has been in the spotlight during the spring here and during the whole season with the exceptional season he had with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And some stories have come out of there, and some things that I maybe knew about, but we hadn't talked about in terms of all the focus had been on goalie and the position and all the work you did with these guys as goalies, and not a lot about as people. So, very long-winded introduction. But tell me about the Goalie Therapist, and tell me about that approach as opposed to just what's going on the ice and skating and moving and catching pucks. Tell me about that approach, and maybe Jack in particular, how important it was for him.
Well, the whole idea of the website and maybe starting something on the side as a business came about because, through all this time that guys come and go, and I have goalies and they go in their careers, go a different direction. I go in a different direction. I still help a lot of these people, and especially with Jack, helped him or coached or mentored, whatever you want to call it, did my thing with Jack through all this time. And that kind of got me thinking that, maybe since I'm sitting at home, not coaching a team right now, that maybe instead of just coaching two guys on one team, I could continue this kind of in a business form and help whoever wants the help. And because to be quite honest, one of the things I'm best at is not necessarily on the ice. I feel I'm a very good coach on the ice. I'm proud of that. But where I offer a lot of my value, it seems, with each and every guy that comes across my path, the things that they really appreciate most are some of these things that are done off the ice. So I thought if I could try and package that or create a business model to help whoever wanted the help, and not just the team I end up coaching. And that's kind of where it started. And it is just started. I haven't really done a big launch or anything, but that's just where it kind of came up. And the whole Jack thing and his great trajectory right now kind of really got me motivated even more so,
And obviously we saw some, James Myrtle had a good piece in The Athletic that sort of brought a lot of this to light, in terms of, the things that Jack had dealt with off the ice as a person. His identity as a goaltender was one thing, but a lot of his self-identity seemed to be tied to his success, and sort of deconstructing that and working with him to feel better about Jack Campbell first, as opposed to Jack Campbell, the goaltender. That process, I mean, without giving too much away, and obviously there's a lot that's personal between you and him, but what can you tell us about that process and how it applies to other people, and how that side of things is important to having success once you're back on the ice?
Right. Everybody's an individual. Everybody has different things going on in their lives, and as they're playing the game, they have their job and what they do, but everybody has lives and things going on. And I guess just the way I approach things, whoever it is, sometimes some things will come up more than others, but I try to basically get them to open up. And then I kind of see the puzzle that's in front of me. And sometimes it's not a big one. And sometimes a lot of these guys have pretty much everything together and everything's good. And we just kind of keep moving forward. But then other times there's more things, more layers that might have to be dealt with first before you can get on the ice, before you can start to build the game to whatever direction you want to take it. So I always kind of try to do that first. And in Jack's case, it was there was a lot going on. To be, it's not a secret anymore. It was private between him and I for a long time, but he's gotten way more comfortable in his skin now, and his life and what has happened in the past, and uh, it actually kind of empowers him a little bit more each time to open up and talk about it, and it doesn't really affect him. Like, that doesn't define him anymore, but it kind of built him to who he is now. So now it's kind of coming out. The James Myrtle article was really big in that, because he spoke to both. He spoke to both myself and Soupy, and Soupy was really open about it. And I think it was a great piece. And but yeah, that's kind of how I go about things. And you know, not everybody has the same story, but it's kind of how I start.
Now, in terms of turning that into a private business model, yeah, and starting the goalie therapist, love the name, by the way. And for everyone who's listening, it's pretty easy to find thegoalietherapist.com and you'll get to Dusty online. Um, how does that process work? And is this specifically for goaltenders? Is there like, is it mentorship? Is it almost like life coach type? Is this the kind of thing that could branch out beyond just goaltending?
Well, it wasn't intended to say take on whoever and people in life coaching. But having said that, since I just let the website out there, I have had a couple of people approach me that actually asked for more life coaching in help getting their lives in the right direction and on the tracks and help their business and their life. They play rec hockey, so that's kind of the connection is there, and that's how they saw me or found me, but they're asking for help kind of outside of that. So this is really in its infancy stage, so we're just exchanging emails, uh, but I was open to it. So I said to the couple of people so far, I said, yeah, I'd be into it. I know I don't have a degree or anything as far as a therapist is concerned, but I do believe I'm good at that connection and figuring people's minds out a little bit. So I'm open to it. We'll see where it takes us.
Okay, now this is a partial sort of surprise announcement that we'll just throw in here for you're going to be doing a presentation at an upcoming conference the Ontario Hockey League is putting on that we're going to co-sponsor. So I guess we just let that cat out of
Yeah.
the bag. But what I'm wondering about is for all the other coaches that are listening now that won't be a part of that,
Right.
how like are there lessons here for everyone about, because quite often I think I've seen goalie coaches work where you get a new student comes in young or even up to pro level where it's just boom right on the ice and let's look at your game.
Yeah.
In your mind, is it important to like almost understand the person first, and are there ways, with short of all the experience you have with it and short of being the quote unquote goalie therapist, are there ways that other coaches can learn to some things they can recognize to help them proceed to the coaching side? How do you
Right.
get to know the person?
Hmm. Well, I don't say this is one way that you have to do it my way or anything like that. But I really am encouraging people, coaches, to try to use my method, if you will, to try to build this relationship first, figure out the person first, and then kind of take your coaching onto the ice and then build from there. Uh, the website actually says on there that I'm more than happy, and actually I would love to work with coaches as well, because if someone wants to try to learn how I do things, I'm not a big guy that feels I want to keep secrets. My little way is my own way, and nobody else can do it. I think it's a positive thing for the game and the way I coach. It's a little different, but I really encourage it. And I've had a few, Matt Millar, who took over my job in LA as the development goalie. Uh, he really seems to have embraced kind of how I do things. And, he's his own style of coach. You know what I mean? When you coach, everybody coaches their own way, but I just mean the basis. I highly recommend you consider going that route and figuring out the person first. And because I'll tell you what, when you show that you care, and that you really care about everything about what's going on in their lives, etc., they're way more all in type of a person or goalie when they feel that from you, and then all the stuff you teach really can sink in. But if you just hop on the ice sometimes, and we're all guilty of it, we've all done it because we want to show that we can coach. uh, you kind of lose sight, and they feel that too. So yeah, I really encourage it. I'm open to helping anybody that wants to learn that way.
So where does it start? Can you give me an example? And maybe it can be someone you worked with in the past, where like, how do you start? Like, it's an awkward question to ask because it sounds like it's just about building a relationship. And I guess in
Mhm.
some ways that should be the easiest thing, but especially with pro athletes, or yeah, I guess with athletes at any level, it's not always the easiest thing to do. You're the voice of authority, you're the coach. So how do you go about building a relationship that leads to this type of openness?
Right. Well, you have to be really good at listening and really trying to listen. And we're as a coaches sometimes, especially when you get going, you forget that part. And you can become the talker, and you're trying to teach, and they're the student and you're the teacher. But if you can really embrace listening off the hop, uh, then you can kind of start to figure out, where you got to take it. So what I do at the very beginning is I'm really conscious of not coming in hot, uh, and then kind of reading off of them. Some everybody has different personalities. Like, I'll give you an example, like you asked, Peter Budaj. Okay, longtime veteran in the NHL. His game goes for shit. Oh, sorry, his game goes for crap, and uh, he's having a rough go. But he's got an ego, and not in a bad way. But he's done a lot in his career, and so I figured that out early, that, okay, I can't come in and say, you got to do this and this and this and this. I have to earn his trust and figure out a way that he's going to listen to some of the suggestions that I make. And I kind of, that takes some time though. And it's kind of hard for us sometimes because we want to get in there and we want to fix the problem. But I really encourage to take your time and listen to them, and ask them questions, and ask them questions about what do they think is wrong, all these types of things. The answers are important, but what's even more important than the questions and the answers is the fact that you're starting to build that relationship. And once you start to do that, then more walls will start to fall down, and then you can really start to get into the good stuff. Does that make you say I get rambling here, but does that make sense to what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So with a guy like Peter Budaj, it took some time, because he needed to feel that what you had substance. And it also took a lot of self, what's the word I'm looking for him to see things in himself. And sometimes you can't come in and say, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. It's from my perspective, and he needed to see it from himself. So I needed to take that time to get him to see things. Uh, and once he did, though, things obviously changed around for him.
Now, when you say see things, like, are you talking like video and on ice and things like that, or are you talking about like more him and how he's relating to everything?
I'm thinking about more of that. The on ice stuff, and the video and the actual stuff about how his game was being played. That stuff's easy to work with. They're professionals. They know how to see that stuff in their game. Uh, but it's the other things, you know, that, that they've maybe lost some of their humility, that they've lost their perspective on actually where they are in their game or their career. Um, these kinds of things are tough, because as high level athletes, we can all have a bit of an ego, and sometimes that kind of blinds you to what was really going on in where you're at in your career or where you're at in your game. But if they really trust you, they'll start to drop that a little bit, and it becomes way easier.
Once they do, like that just make it easier for them to see things in their game too. Like
Oh, for
is it
sure.
are you basically getting them to be honest with themselves
Hmm.
through you? Is that a fair way of
Yeah, yeah. You know, if you're ever to sit in and listen to me, if I'm having all the success with these goalies, you think I'd be going in there and saying, okay, this is what we got to do. We got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this. And I'm talking and I'm talking. That is not how it goes at all when we talk. It's really laid back. And I'll often let them do a lot of the talking and then kind of just break that apart and kind of analyze that as I'm listening. And then I'll throw in my little bits and pieces here and there, but I like to let them guide a lot of conversation sometimes. But it's a tough thing to do sometimes. I really enjoyed listening to Matt Millar when we speak on the phone, and we speak quite often. We spoke yesterday, but how he is approaching things. I like listening to seeing how that version, a different coaches and a different personalities, kind of taking some of the things that I do and implementing it in the way he coaches. And it really sounds like he's doing a great job so far.
Okay, so getting to know the person, do you find sometimes that's more important than the goaltender? Like, as much as getting to know the person allows them to trust you when it comes back to the goaltending and things
Mhm.
that maybe need to change from an on ice perspective, like, is there a lesson here in terms of the person being happy with themselves before they have any chance of having success? Like, or before
100%.
they can be the best version of themselves on the ice, helping them find a comfort level with who they are off it?
100%. We talked about it. It might have been the first episode I did with you and Darren Millard. And he was quite taken back as to how simple and different my philosophy was. Love yourself and the game first and foremost, and then everything else can kind of build from there. And I truly believe that. I think that if you're not happy, if there's things like demons or negative things in your life, personally, your views of yourself or your views of your lack of success, or you're not where you wanted to be, and all of these different things that are clouding over top of you, I don't believe you can really have this huge ascension and build your game to another level, if you will. Like, it's tougher when you're constantly battling that negative vibe. So I feel if you get that fixed first and build that person up to where they're feeling good, man, regardless of the results, uh, I feel then the results will come. But I really try hard to get them to not view so much, be results driven. Like, we're all goal driven, and that's not ever going to die. But I don't like it to be the focus, and I like the focus to be on them being happy. Then all of a sudden they're walking to the rink and they're excited to get there because they love everything about what's going on. Not that they're in the freaking American League or they're in the Coast and, oh, I should be up, and I'm not better than this guy, and all that negative energy just weighs you down. So I'm really conscious of trying to tear down those walls and just build everything up positively.
Now, one of the ways you did that, going back to the Jack Campbell example, was you had him come out and see you here in
Mhm.
White Rock. For people that don't remember from the earlier versions, me and Dusty are a stone's throw away from each other out here in beautiful White Rock, British Columbia, sort of just above the American border. Nice little town to grow up in.
Mhm.
But you have guys out and you get to know them off the ice as much as on the ice during those things. Um, that's going to be an option for clients of the goalie therapist, is to come out
Yeah.
and sort of have some sessions on the ice, but just kind of chill with Dusty Imoo and allow you to build that connection so that you can figure out how these people tick. Walk me through what Kevin Woodley arrives and doesn't know where White Rock is at the airport. What does that weekend or week look like?
Right. Well, like I said, this all kind of started from when I started coaching in LA. I did this with Jack Campbell. He was the first one, and I never had met him. He just got traded, and I brought him here. And it also, the whole basis of this goalie therapist and doing it now and bringing guys in was from that. But to be quite honest, it started very organically, and I just did the same thing. I read off of everything, and I was very loose about it all on purpose with Jack, because I could feel the adrenaline and tension, and he was gung ho, no doubt, but I just needed to dial it down and get him to loosen up. So, and then I kind of did that with, Kyle Peterson and all these different guys, and it really worked. So, as I got better at it, the main thing I did was, I set up these ice times, for example, they're there with me for a week. I set all these ice times up and workouts, and we're going to go do all these different things. But then I would call them and I'd be like, they're hanging out at the one time I had Soupy stay down at the beach at the promenade there.
Yep.
And he's all gets up early, he's ready to go. And I'm like, dude, just chill. We're gonna go for breakfast. We went and had breakfast down on the beach. And he was like, are we going? Well, what's and I'm like, nah, you know what? We're just gonna hang out. And we'll go do the grind later and work out. But right now we just need to chill and hang out. And we talked, and then he just was like, "Whoa, this is different," and it really the vibe worked. And then the next time we did 2 ice times because he was really motivated and wanted to go a second time. You know what I mean? Like, so I just kind of read off the person, and the base was there, but I didn't want it to seem like, okay, you're coming to camp. You got to get up. First ice times, 8 a.m. Next ice time is 1 o'clock. I didn't want it to be like that. I wanted to feed off of how things were, how he was feeling, and they really responded to that. All the guys.
Do you
So
think
that's kind of what I'm going to do moving forward. I'm going to offer that to, let's say an NHL guy wants to find another something that he's missing or whatever. He just doesn't feel right. Had not a great season or whatever. Bring him here as part of the whole working with me, and then it also helps me really figure out what kind of puzzle I got to work with.
Well, I wonder how much of that too is these guys, everything is regimented for them a lot of the times, like a camp
Yeah.
environment. You're here, you're there, you check in, you wear this number, you stay at this hotel, you do that. So to remove some of that structure, I would imagine would sort of remove some of the pressure and expectations of a coach student relationship a little bit and just
Right.
maybe ease that pressure up a little bit.
Totally. And I remember I think the second time Soupy came, I put on the one day he was, you could just feel we were like tired and this and that. So I put on the pads and I did the session with them, and he thought it just feeding off of what's going on and being awake and aware of how they are feeling. It just really, it helps build your coaching connection with them. And it really was a lot of fun for sure.
Well, I was going to say, and it as far as asking you for a formula or how to do this, I mean, really, there isn't one because everything's kind of organic. There isn't structuring it would actually probably take what it is out of it, if that makes sense.
I do obviously have a lot of things that I'll look back and all the different guys. There are some things that I do consistently. You know what I mean?
Give me an example.
Like, for example, like when they're off doing their thing, playing on another team, and I'll make sure that I will post something that is positive towards what they have done or doing, and keep it really on a buddy level, but just that they know that I care about what's going on with their career. Um, and it just keeps on building that relationship. You know what I mean? And I do that consistently. And it's not always thought upon in the regular hockey world as, a lot of coaches don't do that as far as social media is concerned, but I'm very conscious of doing that.
I was going to ask you because I would imagine, like, as obviously we've talked about what happened in China and Russia and the contract, and you've gone a year without now. Like,
Yeah.
I would imagine that from a social media standpoint, some of that, possibly to your detriment as you're looking at, the
Hmm.
possibilities of getting back in. Not every like there are probably some teams that would frown upon that strong a social
Right.
media presence.
Well, totally. Uh, I'm,
Okay.
hey, I'm glad it's okay to bring it up too, because, uh, I don't know how long I've been coaching now, whatever, but from the beginning when I started, I might have had a more reserved approach. I did, however, say right from the get go, I was going to try to be me, always try to be me and be honest to who I am, and not get asked just because I want the job, or I want to, you know, paint this picture of someone just because I want the job, but it's not me. And I'd really tried not to ever do that. But you do hold back on certain things because you don't want to rock the boat uh, in the NHL or professional world of coaching. But as I got going and realized how I did things worked, I really started to have more confidence in the fact that I'm just going to do this. Some aren't going to like it, some aren't going to hire me because of it. But the ones who do believe in what I do are going to get the real me and get hopefully these results that I seem to get with the goalies. But yeah, you're right. It's not. Hey, I'm not an idiot. I don't just put things out there and then think after, oh, geez, what maybe I shouldn't have put that out there or whatever. I know what I'm doing. I know that some aren't going to receive it in the same way, but you can't please everybody. Uh, I just got to be true to me and do what I do. And if the right team fits and we move forward, then it'll happen, God willing.
And if not, you've got the new business on the side, the goalie therapist. And I should point out as I won't say lifelong, but I've been in and out of White Rock with a few stints in college. I guess since grade 7, I've sort of lived here and a few years
Wow.
away, and then come back with my wife when we had kids. So I can vouch for the area. If you're getting the full Dusty Emu goalie therapist immersion program that Beachy talks about in the pier is pretty nice. There's an ice cream shop my daughter works at that I'd highly recommend. Lots of great things. So if you are thinking about coming and checking it out, it's not a bad place to be in the summer. Nice beach. I want to ask you a couple more before we let you go.
Mhm.
This relationship building. Any advice? Because I was reminded of it as as over your shoulder, there's a picture of you and your son Jonah, and obviously the famous game where
Yeah.
you backed up his first American League start
Hmm.
with the Ontario Reign. Any advice for parents? Like, because that's a different relationship
Yeah.
than goalie coach and student.
Hmm.
And yet you've lived it right up to professional hockey, goalie coach, dad, and student, or even maybe for the parents that aren't the goalie coaches. Well, any advice on what to look for, signs to help build them up, to help maintain that positivity, whether it's in the ride home from a tournament or a ride home from a game? Like, is there anything to that approach that you'd recommend?
Well, you nailed a couple of those points as far as the world of parent, hockey parent, hockey mom or dad. Those points you made about uh, being positive, lifting them up. These kinds of things are vital. But one of the things I think maybe as far as advice is concerned, and maybe some of the things that I spoke about just in the past here on the pod is to take the time to listen and listen to yourself. And don't come in hot all the time as a parent. It's almost like magnetic. I've known normal awesome people that are awesome parents that are psycho hockey parents, and it's like it just kind of takes you over. So that would be my biggest advice is sometimes take a breath and step back and look at yourself and how you're parenting as far as being a hockey parent, because you can really get lost in that. And I think listening to your son, just being a support really just a supporter and sending that positive energy to them will help them more than any other advice you could ever give them as far as how they play. Because you'll turn them off so hard if you come in hot and negative and how their game could be better or push harder or do this or do that. They don't want to hear that from their parent. They really don't.
So it's just a matter of keeping it positive and sort of not trying to, I guess in some ways, it sounds like you're saying don't try and coach as a parent.
100%. I really don't believe it's our job as parents. And you use Jonah and myself as an example. I tried that right all the way through, even to when he was in the LA organization. When I would be the coach, I'd be the coach and teach him. But I was very aware about the separation of my role as a parent. And when we would talk as a father son, I really tried hard not to be that critical person. He needed a support person. And you know what? I moved that over into my coaching. I think a lot of that has come from that. I really do. I think the way I did it with Jonah and my other kids, I try to implement that as a coach.
Okay, so we've touched on a couple of the names that you've worked with here. And I
Right.
think obviously everyone's familiar with Jack Campbell and like I said, the story there of
Right.
how just really helping him more as a person and then also as a goalie was so important. You talked about Peter Budaj. You mentioned you've had some other guys that have had some pretty nice runs here, like Cal, obviously, goalie of the
Yeah.
tournament at the World Championships. Michael Hutchinson sort of reestablishing himself in the NHL this year. Connor Hellebuck's a guy you work with, but also overseas. Some guys that you were with in the KHL, like I think Eddie Pasquale's like the goalie of the year over there right now. And
I just saw that today.
yeah, and UC
Okanora.
Okay, you helped me with that one.
Yeah.
Saw
He had
him
a
in the
huge
finals
run.
at the World Championship and Simon Hrubik. Like any stories or any examples there of all the things we've been talking about that apply with some of those names that might not have the same sort of household value over here?
Right. Well, here's the thing. Like I said, those little things I throw out there and stuff. I try to keep doing that and keep that positive vibe because even if it's just a little bit, like I'm not going to claim here that all these guys that I've worked with, York Okanora wins silver medal. I did it. Or Carter Hellebuck wins Vesna. It's me. Like I don't claim that I'm the reason. I just try to help out and do my part to help them elevate. And even when I'm not working with them, I do that with all of them. And I just saw today, like you said, Eddie Pasquale. It was like my first year in Winnipeg. I worked with him, and his career has taken a really crazy path. And I saw him when I was back over working in the K, and he was on another team, and we were talking, and just how long it's been, how far he's his path, and then I see this, he wins goalie of the year, and I just think it's awesome. Simone Rubek won the KHL championship. I had him in Kunlun. But I'm just happy for all of them. And I think if I can do my little part to keep them elevated, I do that.
Do you think it gets misconstrued? Do you think people see you congratulate these guys and assume that you're trying to pat yourself on the back? I never thought of this actually, and this is a pretty pointed question. But do you think there are people that see that and like, oh, he's patting himself on the back, and really this is just making sure that they know you're proud of them?
Yeah. Well, I would have no doubt that there's a person or two out there that would think that. Maybe I'm trying to showcase, all these guys I've worked with or anything, but really doesn't concern me because I just want to keep doing what I do and help out, and I have these relationships, and people can't change that. I'll be honest though, no one has ever tweeted anything or posted anything negatively about those kinds of things. But yeah, maybe there's a person or two out there that might think that, but that's not my intention.
I just never heard it articulated, and I just realized that there might be some people that take it the wrong way.
There will be.
Goalie therapist, where can they find you? Dusty Imoo, if anybody wants to reach out, whether it's some of the pros we have listening to this podcast on a weekly basis, or a youth hockey, or even, like you said, somebody who is still plays, men's league, but has some life advice they could use. Where would they get in touch with you? The goalietherapist.com, is that the best way?
That's the easiest way. If you want to start with an email, the email's on there. Go to the website, check it out, and then email me. And then I usually encourage us to have a chat, whether it's Zoom or just on the phone. Before, I'm not going to offer you all these big, huge packages if you don't feel it's the right fit. And you need to feel that. And that conversation is usually what'll kind of help you figure out whether maybe I can help you. Yeah.
Yeah, see, for some of the beer leaguers, you're gonna have to tell them that they can come over to Woodley's house and check out the goalie garage with all the different brands and all the different test sets that we have. So that would be that's like the little bonus. First the ice cream and at the beach, and for the pros, just don't even mention that I live in the same area, because the last thing these guys want to see is me in the off season. They get enough of me in the regular season. So
no doubt.
Okay, bud. Really appreciate this. Appreciate you taking the time. Third time guest on the podcast. And I'm excited to see where this goes for you with the goalie therapist, and excited to see who comes through town next, and who takes you up on this offer, because it's an exciting one.
Oh, thanks so much, buddy. I really appreciate it. I do.
You know what that sounded like? It sounded like because Hutch mentioned two buddies in White Rock just hanging out. You guys were sitting on the pier or on the rocks, just skipping stones into the ocean and just hanging out. That's what that sounded like.
There you go. I hadn't see again. Then Dusty would have to break down my technique on skipping stones, but he'd probably be able to do it in a way that made me feel good about it, rather than, as a failed ex-baseball player who probably can't skip it like I used to. He'd probably be able to rebuild that.
The first thing he's going to do when he has a session with you is bring in a barber. That's the first thing he's going to do.
I've had that mentioned to me a few times recently. Or I got to figure out this flow. It's getting a little long. It's getting a little untamed. Do you have an event coming up with Hockey Canada? And they do have a sort of policy. So either I go full Roberto Luongo and slick this thing back and hide this.
Yes.
Or...
Yes.
I think Hutch is voting. Is that a vote of professionalism? I need to get rid of this shag.
Well, no. Just I know part of this is a Q&A with Roberto Luongo.
I think it'd be good.
So I would just like to see the look on his face if you showed up with the same hairstyle. I think it'd be unbelievable.
It would be a little weird that I'd also be showing up with his jersey autographed from Team Canada in the background, like and looking like him. Like that would be a little.
Oh, he knows you're a fanboy. It's okay.
Yeah, you're good. I'm just impressed that you knew the answer to Hutch's question going into the feature interview about why people become goaltenders. You were like, gear. Sibling? There was no way I was jumping in there. That was good.
Well, it's a little bit like the end where you try and nail Woody before he uploads his file. I knew he wasn't completely listening to me, so I had to throw him a softball he couldn't answer.
Dusty Imoo, thegoalietherapist.com. That's a cool thing. Check it out. And again, for professionals and for those of us that are past our primes, or just kids playing minor hockey or junior hockey.
Well, and I should say, like, if you're going to do the full experience and like actually come to White Rock, like that is what he did with the prospects of the Kings. He talked about it with Jack Campbell. He talked about it with Cal Peterson. There are goalies that some of those names that he works with that still come back just to hang in the summer a little bit and sort of have that sort of debrief and catch up here. Again, if you want, the in-goal garage is just around the corner here, just down the road. But for the professional goaltenders who try and hide from me in the offseason, don't worry, I'll leave you alone.
We open up that border, I'll be there 2 days after. Thanks, guys. This has been a ton of fun. I love the Source for Sports gear segment with the 5.9 from the Eflex line and the Source for Sports exclusive. What an idea. What an ability. What a luxury to be able to lean on Cam and company, and Dusty Imoo the third time around, making some history as he continues his own evolution in this world. And now we look on to the third round. Who will join Vasilevsky, Price, and what's going on in the Stanley Cup semifinals? Will it be Grubauer? Will it be Marc-Andre Fleury? We'll wait and see and watch with great interest. On behalf of David Hutchison, Kevin Woodley, Cam over at the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports Surrey, and of course, Dusty Imoo, I'm Darren Millett. Thanks for listening to In Goal Radio, the podcast.